Hello people and welcome back to the RDF Tactics YouTube channel. Ralf Rangnick has completed his move to Manchester United just for the 6 months. It's just a 6-month contract, but we are going to be looking at his tactics and how Manchester United could set up under the German coach. In Football Manager, we have replicated that tactic, and in Football Manager, we scored plenty of goals. It's a highly entertaining tactic. So before we get stuck into things, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you like this video. You can leave a comment, that helps this channel grow. Also, this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app, so make sure you check out this fantastic app. So the key areas we are going to be looking at is of course the system. His preferred system was the 4-4-2 and the 4-2-2-2, but he has used the 4-3-3 at Hoffenheim and the 3-5-2 at RB Leipzig. We want to be looking at the intense pressing, the quick vertical passing, getting the ball from back to front very quickly, as he dislikes back and sideways passes. Possession just was not important to him. We aim to shoot, or he aims to shoot, within 10 seconds after winning the ball. There is a very attacking narrow shape, especially with the two wingers cutting inside and supporting those two attackers. Rangnick likes to overload, especially in the half spaces, to help ball progression, and using advancing wing backs as outlets. As the attacking shape is very narrow, those attacking wing backs can occupy those wide spaces, find themselves free, and look to bring the ball back into the half space or into the box with a driven low cross. Ralf Rangnick believes there are 5 different situations that you win a football game. 1, what happens when you are in possession, so basically your style of play. 2, how you set up when the other team has the ball. 3 and 4 would be your transition, so when the ball has been won and when the ball has been lost. And for number 5, focus on set pieces. When out of possession, Rangnick's team looks to press the opposition early to try and win the ball back to go on the attack. Where Rangnick's team wins the ball back isn't the most important, as it's expected to press intensely and aggressively whenever the opposition has the ball. This allows them to quickly transition into attack and exploit the opposition to get a shot off within seconds. The closer to the opponent's goal, the better when winning the ball back, as this means there's less distance between the ball and the opponent's goal. But the defending team also will have fewer players behind the ball to stop that counter-attack. Rangnick himself believes that the intensity in which you win the ball will influence how intense and aggressive you will counter-attack. The more intense we win the ball, the bigger the chance we create. Rangnick will also use certain pressing traps where they lure the opposition into. In the 4-4-2, a pass to the fullback will activate the press, and the team will collectively shift towards the ball side. They will press the ball carrier intensely and close off all of the passing options. In the 4-3-3 at Hoffenheim, they set up in a more of a mid block and had plenty of bodies to press in the center of the pitch, where the wide positioning of the wingers forced the opposition to play into their trap inside the middle. Rangnick also wants his sides to create defensive triangles when pressing. Ralf Rangnick's tactics going forward is all about quick vertical passing. Getting the ball back to front quickly was also helped by the use of counter-attacking after his side has just won the ball. Ralf Rangnick has also spoke on his dislike of having possession just for possession's sake. He aims to create overloads in very dangerous attacking areas, especially in the half spaces. This helps with ball progression and disorganizing defensive, but also aids in their quick passing combinations to create chances. In the 4-4-2, the wing back, ball near central midfielder, winger and or strikers are the players regularly forming triangles or diamonds when overloading an area of the pitch. Overloading in front of defences also allows for counter movements. Simply put, when one player drops, that opens space for another to move into. This is helped by the narrow attacking shape, especially in the 4-4-2 as the two wingers invert. But this narrow attacking shape also forces the opponents to defend narrow, and that leaves space for the wingbacks to advance and operate. The wingbacks will be then used to play the ball inside, preferably in the half space, or put in a driven cross where Rangnick's side will have plenty bodies inside the box. And that's the main mechanisms of Ralf Rangnick's tactics. And in Football Manager now, we're going to have a look at the replicated tactic. And of course, like recently, we are going to create this tactic from scratch, but there are 3 different tactics. But now let's go into Football Manager. Now, because we have 3 different tactics, we are going to be mainly focusing on just the one, which is the 4-4-2, which is also the preferred tactic or formation of Ralf Rangnick. So this would be the second tactic, which is the 4-3-3, which was used more often at Hoffenheim. And here is the 3-5-2, which was more used at RB Leipzig. But we are going to be creating that 4-4-2 from scratch. So what we're going to do is create a new tactic and then create our own style, which would be the 4-4-2, of course. Now, we could start with the player roles, as we already have a decent idea of what player roles we should be using. Simply, the wing backs should already be on the wing backs on support. We kind of know that already. And the wingers, we want them to be inverting, so they have to be cutting inside. On the left hand side, we can use an inverted winger on attack. On the right hand side, we could also use an inverted winger on attack. But we may want something different. We may not necessarily want the exact same things that's happening on the left hand side to be happening on the right hand side as well. That could be a little bit too predictable. So with a wide playmaker, he's naturally going to cut inside and operate in that advanced attacking midfield area. So advanced playmaker on attack would not be a bad option or a bad role to use. Now, when thinking about the roles in central midfield, we also have to be thinking about trying to overload those half spaces. Now, a Mezzala loves to operate in that half space, essentially half winger. So we definitely need or definitely want a Mezzala in the system to try and create those overloads in the half space. So we could actually go for a Mezzala on the right hand side along with the wide playmaker. That would cause a heavy overload with the wide playmaker coming inside and operating in that attacking midfield area and the Mezzala operating in that half space. This will also give a lot of room, a lot of space for that wing back to bomb forward up and get ahead in that free area. So already we have the 2 wing backs. We have one inverted winger, one advanced playmaker or wide playmaker in that right hand side. We do have a Mezzala, but now we also have to be thinking about our rest defense. When we lose the ball higher up, who's going to be in position to stop that counter attack? The 2 central defenders will always have to be there no matter what. But just the 2 central defenders may be too much for them. So we can actually have a defensive midfielder in the system to try and stop those counter attacks, but he can also be a decent cover. Once this inverted winger comes inside, this wing back advances forward, this defensive midfielder can now cover this area here. If the Mezzala gets further forward and the wide playmaker gets further forward, which they'll be bunched up in this area, again, this defensive midfielder can sweep up in these areas as this wing back advances as well. As you can see, we would have a very narrow attacking shape, but this defensive midfielder on support in the defensive midfielder area can be key in stopping counter attacks and sweeping up in behind. So here we have a decent structure, we have a decent idea of how we're going to play. In central defense, we can actually go for a ball playing defender to try and initiate some counter attacks as well. That will help us put us on the front foot, or will at least try. And in goal, you can just have the sweeper keeper, because absolutely no doubt we are going to be playing with a high defense line. This leaves us with the 2 strikers. Now, with the 2 strikers, I had Manchester United in mind. Now, if Ronaldo's going to be playing up front, I'm not expecting him to close down often. I'm not expecting him to be pressing intensely. So his strike partner will almost certainly have to do a lot of that pressing. So thinking about Ronaldo's strike partner, we can go for the pressing forward on attack. And for that Ronaldo role, we could just go for the poacher, someone that's not heavily involved in the build-up play, just on that last line, the shoulder of defenses, waiting for a through ball, waiting for that vertical ball so they can go on a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. So these are the final player roles and duty, but just like I had Manchester United's squad in mind when thinking about the 2 strikers, it was actually similar for the wide playmaker on attack. So with Jadon Sancho, I was very comfortable with using Jadon Sancho as a wide playmaker. But when it came to squad rotating and having to use other players, I did quickly change this role into inverted winger, because not everybody can be a wide playmaker. But now we have our player roles all sorted out, we can start thinking about the instructions as well. So for the wing back on support, we do want him to be driving down the byline when sending in crosses, but when the opposition have the ball, he could be marking tighter and tackling harder as well. And that will be the same for the opposite wing back as well. So we're going to be using, tighter marking, tackling harder and crossing from the byline. The 2 central defenders didn't have any added instructions. The defensive midfielder, he had marked tighter and tackling harder. This is all about being aggressive and being intense when off the ball, trying to win that ball back. The inverted winger had sit more narrower, so he's going to be more involved in possession, position himself in those narrow spaces, and also this helps us when defending, as it will retain a more solid defensive shape. And when the opposition has the ball, we are again going to be marking tighter and tackling harder. For the Mezzala, the same, we are going to be marking tighter, tackling harder, all for the same reasons. And for the wide playmaker, he already or naturally is going to be sitting more narrow, so we are going to be adding get further forward and again mark tighter and tackling harder. The two strikers, they didn't have any added instructions. We aren't expecting that poacher to be very aggressive off the ball, as we are going to be using Ronaldo, and the pressing forward is already aggressive and intense when pressing. So that's the player roles. Now for the team instructions. For the mentality, we are going to be using that attacking mentality where we expect to dominate possession in the opponent's half, and it will aim to exploit spaces in the final third by applying a fast tempo and more direct passing. That is exactly what we want from this tactic. So for the mentality, we are going to be using attacking. For the attacking width, we can play more narrowly, and we don't want to be very narrow playing exclusively in those central channels. We just want to be narrow, just looking to play more centrally. But if the option to play wide is on, then we can use that option. Now, looking at the approach play, we do want to be passing into space to try and get the ball in front of players, trying to encourage those through balls and more direct and vertical passing. That is what this is all about. Direct, quick, vertical passing, get the ball to those two strikers as well, and get those wingers inverting inside. So we do want to be passing into space, and we may overlap on the left and overlap on the right to help with those wing backs get further forward, but this also may help with the two wingers cutting inside as well. If they're looking for the overlap, then they will cut inside with the ball and wait for those wing backs to advance down those flanks. For the passing directness, we can just leave this on slightly more direct. We don't need to go any more direct, as that would make us lose the ball far too often and unnecessary. And with the tempo, we can go to much higher, setting a more urgent approach, getting that ball back to front fairly quickly. In the final third, we can go for width crosses or we can go for low crosses. For me, low crosses work the best. We can shoot on sight, but again, we may unnecessarily be losing the ball. And for dribbling, you can actually use run at defense. Now, it was only at the end of the season I noticed that we had very, very low dribbling numbers, which our numbers for dribbling shouldn't necessarily be low. We have attacking wingers and we have two attacking strikers. I was a little surprised by our dribbling. It's very low. So if you want to play more direct, you can use run at the defense. But like I said, I didn't really notice our low dribbling numbers until the very end of the season. Now for transition, when the possession has been lost, it's fairly obvious what we're going to do here. We are going to be counter pressing, and similar, when the possession has been won, we are going to be making our counter movements. Now, another reason why I have the central midfielder in the defensive midfielder area is again because of this counter movements. As you would notice, with the defensive midfielder, he's no longer looking to get further forward to join that attack. He can now hold his position in that defensive midfield area. If I move him to central midfield, even with a defensive duty, so I'll put him on defense, he is still going to be looking to get further forward and support the team on the attack, which is exactly what we don't want. We do need a decent rest defense. So that is another reason why I did drop that central midfielder in the defensive midfielder area. When the goalkeeper has possession, we don't really have an instruction, but in the last season at RB Leipzig, the goalkeeper fairly often kicked the ball long down that left flank, because that is where Yusuf Poulsen was positioned and he's fairly decent in the air. So at RB Leipzig in the very last season, the goalkeeper did utilize long kicks, but we're going to leave it and just let the goalkeeper decide and what he feels is the best option at the time. And lastly, for out of possession, is all about being intense. So we are going to shift this defense line higher up, and for the line of engagement, we are going to be shifting it all the way to much higher. We can use the offside trap, again, something that Ralf Rangnick did use at RB Leipzig, and I more noticed it in the 3-5-2 because that was basically one of the games that I did watch, was when he used the 3-5-2, and there was certainly the use of an offside trap in that game. We are going to be using tight of marking, and the trigger press is going to be set much more often with the tackling on get stuck in. There's one reason or two reasons why we're not going to be preventing the short goalkeeper distribution. One, we're kind of doing that already with the two strikers, one of them pressing forward, and with a much higher line of engagement, you would notice already those two strikers are positioned very high when the goalkeeper has the ball. But one reason why we aren't using it is because the marking, it totally messes up our marking, and also is because I did use opposition instructions. As we can see here, for the wing backs or for the full backs, we aren't going to be tight marking them, but we are be using trigger press all the time and tackling harder all the time as well. The reason why we're not going to be tied to marking is because we want to force the play there. We want to be forcing the opponents on the outside, and we want to allow that wing back to be in possession of the ball, and then we can intensely close him down. If we're already marking him, if our winger's already on him, then the opposition may not play to him, and that may not allow us to lure them into our trap. Our trap is when the wing backs has the ball, and then we can press them intensely and press that ball carrier. So that's one reason why we're not preventing the short goalkeeper distribution, and that is also the reason why we are using force the opposition on the outside. But that there wraps up this Ralf Rangnick tactic, the 4-4-2 tactic. Anyway, we do have two other tactics. It's a different shape, same principle. It's all about vertical football, getting the ball back to front fairly quickly as well. In the 4-3-3, we are using that narrow attacking width. It just worked better that way. And the transition is fairly the same. Out of possession is fairly different because, like I said earlier, in the 4-3-3 is more about setting up in the mid block, which this is more of a mid block, as we can see the standard line of engagement. And now we are going to be forcing the opposition on the inside rather than the outside, as our ball winners are in the central of the pitch. This is where we are going to be preventing the short goalkeeper distribution as well. As you would notice, we only have that one striker. And for the 3-5-2, it's fairly the same as the 4-3-3. It's all about setting up in the mid block, forcing the opposition on the inside where we have our ball winners in midfield, and we have that much more often press and getting stuck in, all about being intent. In the defensive midfield area, we do have a ball winning midfielder. We have a central midfielder on attack, making those vertical runs as well, with the wing backs on support, supporting those flanks, with one wide centre back as well, supporting that wide flank. So that's it there. Now we can load the 4-4-2, and as you can see, we have three different tactics. We have the 4-4-2, the 4-3-3, and the 3-5-2. All of which was used during the season, which we will see now with the results and data. The data is my favorite part. So in the English Premier League, Manchester United were the winners. We did play 38, we won 33, drew 4. Those 4 drosses came away to Manchester City, at home to Tottenham, fairly disappointing, away to Watford, and away to Liverpool. And our only loss came away to Arsenal. We did have a goal difference of +96 and a points tally of 103. In the UEFA Champions League, we disappointingly got knocked out in the quarter-final by Liverpool, but it's no embarrassment. In the Emirates FA Cup, we won that competition, and in the Carabao Cup, we got knocked out in the quarter-final by Chelsea. In the FA Cup, we did beat Manchester City in the final 1-0 in extra time. Attacking wise, in the Premier League, we were absolutely unstoppable. We scored 133 goals in the Premier League. That is absolutely unheard of. We did have the most shots for, 810 shots, and for the fewest shots against, we come in third place with 325. Best pass completion and most possession, we absolutely do not care about that because possession is just not our thing. For the tackles won, we are on 748, which ranks us third in that regard, which is it's kind of useful to know that our press is fairly successful, but also the mid block that helps getting a lot of tackles, and we did use the mid block decent amount of times, especially against the biggest sides away. For the most dribbles made, we aren't in the top 8, and like I said earlier, that was a huge disappointment, and I didn't really notice that until the end of the season, which it was too late to make that tactical tweak. For the clean sheets, we come in joint 4th with 14, and for the fewest conceded, we come in 4th with 37. For the top goal scorer, I mean, this is absolutely insane. For the top goal scorer, we have Cristiano Ronaldo on 33, we have Mason Greenwood on 24, and Edison Cavani on 22. So we have 3 players, all of them are strikers as well, in the top 8 as the top goal scorers in the Premier League. For the most assists, we have Bruno Fernandes on 26, Jesse Lingard on 13, Mason Greenwood on 11, and Jadon Sancho on 10. So the top 4 are all of our players. So attacking wise, going forward, this tactic was absolutely fantastic. Most shots for Cristiano Ronaldo in second place. For the most man of the match awards, we have Ronaldo on 7, Greenwood on 6, and Fernandes on 6 as well. For the most key passes, Bruno Fernandes on 158. For the pass completion, we don't really care about that. For the most tackles won, we have Aaron Wan-Bissaka on 106, which is literally no surprise at all. Dribbles made, nobody there. Most clean sheets, Dean Henderson in 7th place. And for the views conceded, we have David De Gea. We did have David De Gea, but he did end up going off form and he lost his place in the side to Dean Henderson, and he conceded 22 goals. Now, one thing that I'm fairly happy about, I guess, is the goals from corners. Now, we don't have any set piece routines, so if I go to the tactic, so as you can see in the corner routines, we do not have any set pieces set up. So this is the routine for the 4-4-2, this is the routine for the 3-5-2, and this is the routine for the 4-3-3. As you can see, there is no set piece routine set up, but we somehow still managed to score 14 goals from corners, which is always a huge positive. Now we can look at the data hub, and this is where I noticed that we had very few dribbles per game. We are very low when it comes to dribbles per game, only 9.21, which is of course a fairly low number, but we are scoring 3.5 goals per game with an expected goals per game of 2.66. We are getting 21.32 shots per game with 46% of those shots on target. For the attacking efficiency, we were aggressive with our shooting and we were clinical as well. And for the shooting, it's fairly similar. We were aggressive and we did have some high quality shooting. Defensively, we were fairly low with a few blocks and with a few clearances, but that just means to me that we wasn't defending a lot. But we can also see here with the possession that we frequently won the ball, but we were loose in possession, which kind of sums up Ralf Rangnick's side to a T. We want to win the ball back and we want to be very risky in possession, playing those direct balls further forward. Here with the defensive efficiency, we were quiet, but we were in between leaky and in between impenetrable. And for the tackling, again, you can see how impressive we were in winning the ball back. We were making lots of tackles, but we did have a very high tackles won ratio percentage. So it's nice to know that our press in ways was working very well in the match engine. So that there wraps up the data hub. We can now look at the squad stats to see who were the top goal scorers. Actually, no. I wanted to have a look at the schedule to have a look at some of these results, because some of these results were absolutely outrageous. So we started the season with 2 6-2 wins. We beat Wolves away 6-2, and then we beat Villa 6-2, and then we beat Crystal Palace 2-0 away from home. We went on a decent winning streak, then we drew 2-2 away to Liverpool. By the way, I do use the 4-3-3 away against the big sides. Against Shakhtar, we smashed them 8-1 at home. We smashed Brentford 7-1 at home. We also smashed Brighton 7-3 away. So you can see some very high scoring games. We beat Wolves 5-0. We beat Crystal Palace 7-1. We beat Southampton 6-1. I mean, the high press was absolutely unstoppable. But you could see the goals were kind of wearing off. The attacking was kind of dying down, and the tired legs were just playing a part. As you notice that in Football Manager 2022, you literally just can't gegenpress for 90 minutes every game, 38 games a season, and plus the cup games. You cannot play gegenpress and without squad rotation as well all the time. And that's basically what happened to me. Once Bruno Fernandes, once Cristiano Ronaldo, once Jadon Sancho as well, Paul Pogba, once they started losing their legs, you can see that the results started to get a bit, I don't know, inconsistent, and there was a lot more of me making tweaks during the game to try and get a result out of some of these games. Tweaking, by the way, is very important. But now we can go to the squad stats to see who were the top goal scorers and who were the highest assists in the side. Now for the top goal scorers, Cristiano Ronaldo, he scored 43 goals in 36 starts, 37 appearances altogether. Absolutely incredible, with 11 assists. Mason Greenwood has 34 goals in 41 starts. Edison Cavani has 27 goals in 17 starts. Paul Pogba has 21 goals. Yes, you heard right. Paul Pogba has 21 goals in 41 starts, and he played often on the left side of midfield as the inverted winger. Now for the assists, Bruno Fernandes on 28 assists throughout the whole competition, or the whole season I should say, in all competitions. Jesse Lingard has 20 assists, Mason Greenwood has 12, Marcus Rashford has 12, Jadon Sancho has 11, and Ronaldo has 11. So for the top 5 performers, we have Cristiano Ronaldo, we have Edison Cavani, we have Mason Greenwood, the 3 strikers. We do have Bruno Fernandes, who often played as that Mazzala, and we have Alex Telles, who of course played often as that left wing back. But unfortunately, that wraps up this tactical video on FM22 all about Ralf Rangnick at Manchester United. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you like this video, and also leave a comment, as that helps the algorithm and that helps this channel. Download that OneFootball app as well. Shout out to all my Patreons. I'll speak to you guys soon. Stay safe and God bless. What was that wink about? See you later, guys.